Hey, my beauties, welcome back to The Way Shit Works Now with your boys, Lucas and
Bobby from the Bronx with our
there
wonderful
we go.
guest.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And we really want to thank our special guest today because this sister has done it all. Let's keep it real. From rocking the comedy clubs of NYC, acting on screen. She was in it, I believe she was even off Broadway on the Vagina Monologues. If I'm not wrong, she's going to kick my ass and she'll correct me. Running for mayor of New York City. She's also a mental health advocate, animal rights supporter. She's the founder of Wake the F Up NYC. And I hope you know that that is seriously the name. Wake the F Up NYC. You may know her from Sirius XM as well as stand-up specials. Plus, fearlessly into politics. I want everybody to please welcome to this very new podcast, Stacey Prussman. Thank you so much for being here. Seriously, if we could give you a
Hi,
round of applause,
everybody.
we're going to do
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank
that.
you. Thank you for
Now,
having me.
Yes.
how is it? How are things right now in the city? And you're just waking up, I believe, as we're recording this, correct?
Well, it's one. The city is, it's the same but different at the same time. I can't explain. I'm in Brooklyn. I'm in like South Brooklyn, so it's never really changes that much. But, um, I mean, the subways smell, the streets are dirty, so it's pretty much the same. The
Pretty much the
politicians are
same.
corrupt, so we're doing pretty well.
Oof.
Yeah, that's exactly why you ran. You took a third party run for mayor, and I voted for you,
Oh, thank
actually.
you.
Yeah, I definitely did. I was not having any of that other shit. And I know you're a genuinely good person. So I was like, you know what? I want to do something good this time.
Thank you.
So we'd love to start off with a couple of rapid fire questions just to get to know
Sure.
you, and then we'll dig deep into your sort of illustrious long career of being, in every good sense of the word, a true hustler. How you have to be to live in New York City. I feel like, how to make it in New York City. You could write that book all by yourself. And Lucas, why don't
Good
you
idea. Thanks for the yeah, I'm gonna write it. I think
do? You
trying to make it
should.
and not make it at the same time,
I
but
feel like
that's
it's
okay.
it's the one thing you haven't done, right? Like it's the author is the one thing you need to put on your title list.
That's gonna be coming soon, but yes.
Very good. So, Lucas, why don't you kick us off?
All right, let's do it. Just a few fast, fun questions. The first mind, whatever comes to mind, just all right. You're in a film. I believe you do that from time to time. And who would play you in a movie about your life?
Ooh.
An
Wow.
actress.
I think it would be a cross between Gina Gershon, Marissa Tomei, and Pamela Alden.
Nice.
Gina Gershon. Really?
I
Pamela
like
Alden. Wow.
Well, the
Gina.
younger
Wow,
version,
really?
like the third. Well, that's my. They're my age, those women, give or take a year or so back. But who would the younger version be? Like the 30-year-old, like the 20-year-old, whatever. The kid. That's more of an interesting thought.
Sure, it would go over a period of years, and so you'd have to have a
Right.
number
So
of
they couldn't
actresses.
play like 20 or 15. So I don't even know who the actresses are. Maybe oh, that's a good question. I don't even know who would play me. Um
No, I hope that they would
Lady
be a.
Gaga.
Lady Gaga, there we go. She's in everything now. That'd be perfect. So I got one for you. We're both New York City. I spent my entire life in New York City. Lucas has spent a long time in New York City. What is your go-to bodega snack at 2 in the morning?
Well, it's deli from Brooklyn because we call it the
Yeah, of
deli.
course. Yeah, sorry.
Um
The Bronx is my.
Definitely Oreos for sweet. Egg and cheese for salty, and uh coffee. Day or
Oh,
night.
great. Okay,
And
I have a
pizza.
stupid
Well,
question.
pizza, but they don't have them at the bodega or the deli, but yeah,
Sure,
those
sure.
three.
Did anybody in their hood back in the day have the deli bodega or midnight ice cream truck man that would sell special things underneath the counter?
I mean, in the
You know,
Bronx. Yeah.
no, I know those things. We had not in my neighborhood but my friend once wanted to get some treats, and we drove somewhere in another neighborhood, and it was like old cans of like Goya beans from like 20 years ago. Like they had to put it, make it look real. So it was like one, Windex, and like, it was weird. It's like, what is this? I wanted to buy a cookie.
Yeah, right.
But
Oh,
you can't go in the store really, so it's kind of weird.
Right, right. My neighborhood, we had the Coquito guy in the winter, and then the Jolly Rancher guy in the summer, which a little bit of extra in your drink. And
Right.
then one thing I had in mind, because you did run for mayor, and I did vote for you, is
Oh,
what is
thank
more,
you. You're
of
one
course,
of my
I mean,
3,189 votes, but thank
oh,
you.
no, I was proud to do it too. I was absolutely disgusted with the current mayor, and that's just my opinion. But I'm sure it's the opinion of a lot of people. But I want to ask
Yeah.
you something personally. What is more stressful, running for mayor or doing stand up in front of drunk tourists?
Oh, that's a good question. Running for mayor was stressful in a different way. I mean, I stand up, if I fuck up, I can say fuck, right? I'm not
Yeah, of course.
PG-13. You never know because it doesn't hurt anybody but me, right? So if I run for mayor, or there's a lot of people like behind me, my donors. So if I mess up a debate, or even if I became the mayor, there's more at risk. So there was a lot of stress involved, because it was like
Yeah.
people were donating money, people wanted a certain platform to be had. I ran Libertarian, so we definitely had to stick to our freedom platform and all that stuff. So, um, and everything had to have a libertarian swing to it, because we're libertarian, and so you can't say the wrong thing. It's taken wrong or taken incorrectly. You can't say, you mess up a wording of something. It was very stressful. It was worse than writing jokes, definitely.
That makes
Wow.
sense.
Extremely stressful. Yeah. Because stand-up's just me. It's like big deal. So these tourists will never see me again. New York will keep seeing me, thanks.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we've got two roads here, and I feel like the best way to start is with your career in stand up and then circle back to the famous run for mayor. So why don't we start there? What brought you into stand up comedy and when did you start?
So this is an interesting question. So I was an actor. I am an actor. I started as an actor, actress, whatever. I have to gender it, I guess. Who cares? Um, I was a person that acts since I was a young kid. I majored in theater and minored in directing, and then I got a job as a waitress. But that's a hacky thing. But no, I
Please.
actually did major and minor. My parents paid for college for me to major and minor in college in Albany. Uh, and I loved it, and I made good friends. A lot of my classmates are famous. It wasn't known for theater, it wasn't known for acting, but we had really talented kids in my class, or students. Kids, they're 20. So we basically I then went into I did off Broadway for almost my entire 20s. I did a show called Grandma Sylvia's Funeral. I did films. I starred in Glam Trash and Girl in the Park and a bunch of films. All over, I don't even remember half the names of the films I starred in, and different shows and whatnot. And then I met Jackie Mason. I think his
Wow.
intentions weren't quite genuine, if you know what but he asked me to open up for him
Oh.
in both ways, but not just one. And I was only about 25. I
Jeez.
didn't open up for him. He was
Loves it.
Luca took a minute. And I'm friends with his daughter now, ironically. I'm friendly. When I see her, Sheba and I are friendly. But back then I was only 25 or 24. I don't know how old I was. And he's like, he saw me in the Grandma Sylvia's Funeral. It was had a lot of comedy, and with a lot of comic timing. And Jackie's like, maybe you should open up for me. And I'm like, you should do stand up. You should try it. I'm like, all right. But I didn't like quite pick up the mic at that point, you know. And then Grandma Sylvia closed, and I didn't know what to do next. And then a year or two later, I bumped into my friend Neil Feinberg. I don't know if you know him. He was Colt 45. He was Colt 40 Feinberg on Howard Stern. He did the Chris Rock impression.
Okay.
It was like he
Right.
played like a black dude. It was like his character. He's funny.
Gotcha.
And he's like, I bumped into him on the street, and he's like, hey, we should open a comedy room together. And at this place, this bar on 4th Street. And I'm like, okay. I never been on stage before. My first time doing stand-up, I was actually hosting my own show. But before
Wow.
that, I used to go see Rick Shapiro.
Yeah. Rick Shapiro's great.
And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was like, I couldn't believe it. I've never seen anything like that before. An hour of just ranting and these incredible analogies and observations. And I mean, it was like watching a genius. And I've never seen anything like that before. And I was so inspired by Rick. We were friends before I did comedy. And that was kind of what made me start doing stand up. Between Rick and Neil and Jackie, it was probably that.
And do you
Okay.
think and do you think your experience with like doing like plays and live like live shows like that just numbed you to the stage fright concept? Because I think that's the number one problem. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
so,
I was already on stage, so it was a matter of what it was. Was I writing my own stuff or doing your script? And the thing about doing Grandma Sylvia that was so interesting is that we had a half scripted show and it was half improv. So I was
mhm,
forced to improv. So I was already writing comedy within the realm of the show per
right.
se. So I was already getting a sense of like a setup and a punch within my improv because we do the same show
Okay.
every day. It was improv, but it was also you put it out there, you usually get the same thing back. It was kind of, people react similar when you ask the same questions and the same, basically it was improv, but you didn't get, you never got thrown for a loop.
Right.
And even if you did, you were able to pick up. So it didn't really matter. So it'd be like, how'd you know my grandma? I was like this Brooklyn Jewish girl, tough. That was my character, you know?
Okay.
And so, I would, whatever, I would talk to the audience, but I was getting so used to doing stand up without doing stand up.
Right.
So I
So,
already had that down. It was just the writing and my time getting the timing down and not adding too much junk on my jokes, fat on the jokes, and that was what was the more of the issue
Well,
in the
that
beginning.
is actually a perfect lead to the next question because, our people in the city can be famously brutal. So I'm wondering if there was a time when one of those jokes or when you started doing that, or maybe something just didn't land the way you thought it was going to land with the audience and how you
Oh
reacted to
yeah, I
that.
mean it happens all. I mean I'm sure I've tried jokes and then I always had another joke to cover it up. In the beginning, even now, I could mess up my. The worst is when you mess up your own joke. Like
sure.
you've done it that's like you want to punch yourself, like you want to shoot yourself because the joke, like you've done this joke, the bit, like you mess it up, you just like your brain scrambles. So that drives me crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, of course jokes don't land or the worst actually is when the crowd isn't paying attention. That feels like, it brings up like all your like my daddy issues. Like, my daddy didn't listen to me and now the audience is, so it felt like my daddy isn't listening to me and now you're not, so that was like actually deeply more scarring psychologically when they just ignore you.
Oh God. Okay.
I mean,
Sure.
I'd rather them pay
Sure.
attention and not like my joke and be like, than them paying, or they didn't have these, not, you've seen them on probably comics videos, like comics are on stage and the audience judge joke to joke.
Oh wow.
I
Yes.
hate
Yes. I
that.
have a.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that drives
That's.
me crazy. It's like, okay, then you come up here and do this,
Yeah.
you know. But mostly, I mean, I'm the audiences don't bother me. It's like when they don't like the jokes, but when they kind of ignore you, that can make me nuts.
So the stage fright thing just doesn't even register for you. It's just not even a thing that enters into your head at all. That's
No,
crazy. Do you have
I mean,
any
I'm
in?
more comfortable on stage than I am in life. I'm not comfortable in life. I'm comfortable on stage.
Wow,
I've
that's
said this
interesting.
to many people. Yeah, I've said this to my therapist, my boyfriend, my friends, I'm, if unless I'm, I mean, very intimate situations, unless I know somebody, I'm very uncomfortable around people in a way. I have to like really fight it.
So performing's your outlet.
Yeah.
Well, that makes perfect
Do you
sense.
still blame your dad?
No. Yeah. No, I mean,
No.
it's like it's weird. Like what will hit you, what will affect you isn't what you think will affect you in life.
Yeah.
Like, so the obvious, yeah, I mean, I would get nervous if like somebody that was like passing something was in the audience that I wanted to be in, or that would make me nervous. Like something like I was being judged for another job that might be lucrative. That might actually make me nervous. But other than
Okay.
that, I
So,
don't really
which
have.
comic?
What, I didn't hear what you
Sorry for
said. No, I didn't
yeah.
hear.
Sorry. Which comics make you laugh? Which are the ones that have always triggered your funny bone?
Oh, so many, there's thousands. My own friends, like my friend Vanessa Hollingshead makes me laugh, and my, my friend
I
Sharon
guess.
Simon, like my friends make me laugh, but like they're comics, those Rick Shapiro always made me laugh, obviously. Bill Burr, Tim Dillon. I'm like, I love Tim Dillon. I could watch him whenever I'm in a bad mood. I watch Tim Dillon, not his podcast. Like he just makes me, the way he just puts everything is just so funny. He kind of has this kind of middle of the road point of view that's just kind of like truth telling. Like I think
Right.
he's like a genius to me. Bill Burr obviously is great.
He's my
I
favorite
just
bro,
love.
Bill Burr.
I used to love watching Joan Rivers as a kid and
Oh,
Wendy.
Oh,
amazing.
thank
Uh,
you for mentioning that. Thank you
yeah,
for
just
mentioning her. Yes.
Wendy
Incredible.
Williams.
Oh,
Um,
she
I
truly
I'm so
is one of
upset what
my.
happened to her.
I was
so
shit the
many
day she
people.
died.
Yeah.
Who?
Joan
Joan
Rivers.
Rivers, yeah. Yeah. I thought you
When
said
Joan
whenever
died,
she,
I was shit the day.
me too. That was terrible. So I mean, if it wasn't for her, I probably would have done what I was doing, like being a big mouth and, not being afraid to talk about the most intimate parts of my life or dirty, just anything. Like, so she set the stage for people like me, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, and that makes me question another thing. Do you find it sometimes that women are a little brutally more honest on stage as comics or people doing monologues than male counterparts sometimes?
I think it's equal. I think a good comic is brutally honest. I mean, I don't see it. I don't see the gender difference in comedy. Like, I think you're funny. When I started, I would tour a lot, a lot. Like I started right on the road. Like the first year I was on the road, and one of my first tours was the Deep South. I mean, I'm a
Oh,
Brooklyn Jewish girl
Right.
going to like Alabama, Mississippi, and we're not talking about the big cities. We're talking about like little towns that you would, may have a man or woman, Jew before, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
and ironically, like it was so bizarre. Like we never had a female comic ever. It was just so. This was like
geez.
years ago, so it was so bizarre to see that. Like from coming from New York and the tri-state area, like and then going to like Deep South in like the early 2000s, it was a different world. Like, like girls like Nikki Glazer weren't here yet. Like that wasn't this generation has, the girls that are a little bit younger than me are now like really making it fast and furious because we need those voices. We didn't have those. I didn't have those voices when I was starting out. So yeah.
Right.
Okay.
You kick it in some doors for people. That's wonderful. That's really
I mean, I
wonderful.
didn't
Well,
do it on purpose, but
that's
I
perfect.
mean, I'm glad, it was a different world,
Yeah.
when I started. There was no dirt, there was no comment. I was very, very, and even to this day, there's much more, there's many more women on lineups, but up until maybe 8-10 years ago, I'd be the only woman on lineups.
Mm.
When I did like big benefits, it'd be me and maybe another girl, but that was it. Woman,
Yeah.
Do you know off the top of your head, how many states have you performed in? Or like a rough estimate?
probably almost every state except for like Montana and the Dakotas, I think I've been in. I've been in Idaho, Omaha. But yeah, I've
Wow.
performed almost like in every state.
Can I please throw out about a Dakota, please?
What?
Okay.
Oh, what?
So
I don't know anything
since
about the Dakotas.
2023,
Drinking about that.
fentanyl and opiate deaths have gone down in every single state in our union, except Kristi Noem's South Dakota.
Oh, is that right?
Oh,
I just had,
interesting. I wonder if she's
yeah,
making
it's
money
the
on that.
only one.
Yeah, maybe.
I just had to say that.
No,
That's the pivot.
I
yeah.
believe it. I think she's a sociopath. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't care if you like her or not. I think she's absolutely out of her mind. And I think she's dangerous.
I mean, you can't murder a dog and be like a
No,
normal
and a
person.
ghost, yeah.
Definitely something that's not computing. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of a weird transition, but I did want to ask you because you've performed in
Yeah.
so many states for years now. What have you learned about generally? What have you learned about people from your experiences
They like
on
to
the
fuck
road?
and they like to drink.
Fantastic. It's like maybe there's something profound here. No, that's true. Very cool.
I mean, if you don't know what to talk, I mean, all right. So I remember years ago, we were in West Virginia, okay, which I've been to 2 or 3 times, which I never thought, in my life. Once to do a lecture, twice to do stand-up, and had a great time. We performed for coal miners. Some of them had black lung at the time, sadly.
Jeez.
But the smart stuff didn't work, and the kind of wordplay didn't work, or but the drinking, the sex, it always goes, it always works. Complaining about your boyfriend or girlfriend or relationship, that works. I mean, there's a commonality amongst people, right? Most people want to fuck, or they can fuck, or they do fuck, or they complain about the fucking,
Right.
there's
One of
some
those.
issue, or their partner's a pain in the ass, or they love their part, or they can't find a partner, or they, whatever their situation is, and they like to drink, or they had a drinking problem. It's
Sure.
either one or the other. Either
Right.
they drink too much, or now they're sober. So take your pick. So that's basically what kind of gets people. And drinking, definitely, people you could do a lot of funny drinking jokes. But when you really want to talk about maybe something more profound in a place that may not appreciate it, maybe they will, but you try it, it may not work. Or a social statement, perhaps. There's always drinking and sex, so they,
Right. It's good fallback for any would-be comics
Right.
listening to this at this moment.
I
Right.
love I love the way that this is woven itself. I feel like a dream is being woven. It's a perfect segue into the next question, because one of the things we'd written up was how you speak up and really say your truth and speak power to your truth, but you've moved from comedy clubs to doing keynote speaking and conferences, and that's a big thing when you're doing public speaking. That's something that you also want to get more into. You mentioned earlier,
Yeah,
when we were prepping for.
Yeah, I did speaking actually for years. Like I was doing it more like, about 5 years ago, or before the pandemic, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And then it just kind of like, I just switched away, from the agencies I was working with, and I was just doing different things. I was doing more comedy. I mean, it wasn't one or the other, because the thing about speaking is that you go into a place, you leave, and you come home, or you go to another place. So you don't have to like make a choice, because usually you could speak during the week or even do stand up. Like there were times I would do stand up in a town at night. So I would do this lecture at the college, and then at night I would do a comedy show somewhere else,
Yeah.
or sometimes in the college, sometimes not, but mostly I would do it outside the college in a bar or something. So you can kind of do 2 for 1, or do a little tour from there. So that wasn't one or the other. I was doing both, and I stopped speaking. Just, I guess what happened was the pandemic hit. I wasn't traveling. I have an older
Sure.
mom, so that kind of put a, and I was just working in other types of work. I was doing some film work. So I couldn't focus on, getting lectures and, booking them. But now I'd like to really do a lecture. I was doing my eating disorder lectures and my body image and my health and wellness. And now I want to go into more about, making it 3,189 ways to vote from overcoming adversity through action. And that's my new lecture.
It's incredible.
And
you also and you also talk about burnout. I feel like
that was my second lecture I did. So after I did my eating disorder story, which is called Looking Through Broken Mirrors, my story of recovery from eating disorders.
wow.
Always recovering. And I decided, let me find a lecture that gives the same message, but it's not so much about my journey, it's about how I can help students not get into the pattern of sort of of eating disorders without saying eating disorders, like not using food or using negative substances to overcome stress or overcome feelings. So I kind of made it more of a workshop where we got into the heads of the students. This head, not that head. I don't know why I had to go there.
Comedian to your bones.
I don't know.
Have you ever?
Why'd I have to go dirty? Why'd I have to go dirty?
Ever?
No.
Okay,
I
okay.
never, with what, a student? Never.
Okay.
I've done that, but not with a student, obviously. But I decided to let's really talk to them. So I made it interactive about let's stop you from burning out. What can we do? And we, though that lecture brought up so much, that program brought up so much emotion, it brought up so many issues that students were dealing with that the administration did not realize at the time. Like there were single parents at school. It wasn't like when I went to school, you went to high school, then you went to college, upstate or to another state, and you had some had like some jobs, but now kids are now going to school later. They're some of them have kids,
Yeah.
Whatever. They're not all traditional students.
Right.
And and even traditional students have a lot of pressure, and especially in this day and age, it's a lot more pressure, I think. So everyone's glowing up. Everyone has to glow up and be perfect. And, it's a lot of that. Social media. We didn't have social media. We just had stupid magazines. Right now we have social media and all kinds of people blapping at us, telling us what we should do, you have to be our best. And it can be very overwhelming. So we were finding this out, what was going through the heads of the students. And and they would be able to voice it during my program if they choose to, and I would try to be a mirror for that. And I thought that program really was very effective in helping students sort of overcome burnout and help the
And
administration with that, giving them the support that they needed in terms of having the therapist on campus and having groups to to let out steam with, so they're not becoming alcoholics, because that's when kids actually, I think, really discover alcoholism is during college.
sure, yeah.
And drugs, and some kids just like sort of end up using it here and there, and then some kids like go nuts and they're 30 years old and they're have cirrhosis.
So you were able to
Yeah.
take your own struggle and your own recovery with these particular issues, especially with eating disorders, and that's amazing, and then turn it into helping other people and formulate it in a way that can be understood, which I think is like the largest, issue, right? Like being able to like convey to people like this is the struggle that I've been through. It may not be your exact struggle, but you might be able to learn some keys from my mistakes, and here's where I've been able to succeed. I think that's wonderful work. I think that's really, really great that you're
Well,
doing that.
I'd like to do it more. So if you need a speaker,
Yeah.
if you're an administrator, I'm here. So we can have a lot of fun.
Well, I would like to piggyback before we get to the next segment, because I
Sure.
also work in education, specifically with college and university students a lot. And in our neck of the woods where we reside, certainly in the Mediterranean countries, um, the average age to leave your home, your parents' home or grandparents' home, is well past 30 now in Spain, Italy, Greece, Portugal. Um, and you mentioned these kids. Do you find that there is more pressure? Obviously, I feel social media puts more pressure and just dynamics of society anyway on women, but there are fewer men graduating from high school and university in our country. In fact, I believe it is now 60-40%,
Wow.
female 40, and it's the same here in Catalonia where we live. Do you find that, and this is just a theory I have because I work in history, that men, because for so long men were the only ones who had the positions that were just granted to them, that in many aspects they lost the inertia that women had to develop, women, people of color, gays, to struggle, survive, save, hide, that now they can thrive more because there is a bit more parity. This is just me as an educator being a dork. I'm just asking that out of the left
No,
field.
I think when you are held back, or, by society, whatever, or systemically held back, and that could be in your own head or in reality, depending on where you live and what your situation is, I think you work harder. And then the people that haven't had to deal with that, like have privilege, kind of lay back and like let things happen, right? So you kind of fight harder. And I think when you fight harder, as a group, you just start getting more, and that's what happens. Then you own your own businesses, then you're the landlords, and then you're the business owners, right? So, I think, you know, the privilege, the male privilege, as they might say, might, kind of, it's like kind of like the rich kid, right? Like he kind of like doesn't really have to work that hard. His parents just give him everything, and he doesn't always turn
Mhm.
out so great. Some do, right? Some work really hard and, you know, try to live up
Look at the
to the
Trump
expectation.
kids. They turned out great.
Isn't that
Yeah.
great?
Yeah,
Yeah. Some works
some
out.
kids
Mhm.
turn out great. Some kids turn out like some people become, just they don't have a purpose. So I think when you have a purpose and you have to find your way, it kind of, and you fight for it, I think it makes a difference. That's my theory. So I think the underserved, come up, right? It happens in every society,
Right,
and
there's
women
more
specifically.
fight. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's more. I get you. Like the stress of like failing a class is nothing compared to like not having food on your table, or
Right.
living with these types of like anxiety disorders or things that people develop. If somebody is watching right now and they wanted your story on how you were able to overcome, I mean, because you're an actress and you're stand up, and so there's lots of like there's inherent failure. You don't win every you don't win every audience over. You don't win every audition. So I guess it's just part of your MO that like you can handle that type of thing. But what would you give somebody who doesn't have experience and is feeling floored by these types of like challenges in life and developing like anxiety or anxiety disorders or eating disorders or just totally burnt out with their stresses in life? I mean, do you have like a short like elevator pitch on like what you can tell somebody to get in a better
Meds,
headspace? Yeah, okay.
medication. I'm kidding. Drugs. That always helps. It's a fast fix.
Get a
I think
doctor
it's like,
involved.
well, we all say, everyone has a lot of people have anxiety. It's not, it's kind of just finding the thing that you love and doing it anyway. Like finding like the things about yourself that you embrace, like embrace your fault, embrace your talents, embrace your every parts of yourself, and then keep going because you're going to be you no matter what. You could be the better version of yourself. You could, make better habits, perhaps that works. Taking really good care of yourself is important, going to, seeking the help you need. But then after that, it's just like keep going, like keep walking down the path. Like there's going to be gravel, there's going to be rocks, there's going to be mountains, there's going to be hills, there's going to be slopes, but you have to keep going. Just wear the right shoes and bring water.
And be yourself. Like, don't be something you're
Oh,
not. I think that's
Hmm.
great. I think that's really
Yeah, because
great.
if you're not yourself, people see through. I think authenticity is so important. Like you need to be authentic because people could see right through
okay.
that. Like I was talking to a casting director the other day, and he's like, we see people every day, doing their auditions, and we can see right through it. Like we can see the authenticity, like almost immediately. Forget about the technique and the acting technique, the authenticity in life. And I'm bringing this into life. It has to come through. You have to be authentic. You have to be yourself. It's like going on a date
Amen.
with somebody. Like when people are bullshitting you. It's like you just know.
Okay.
Right.
Well, and so that would mean that we're all aware that the majority of people are motherfucking bullshit artists because that's just the way that this cookie seems to crumble these days. Even if we look at social media and things online, I mean, look at the history of the Kardashians, that beloved Armenian family. And there's this element where it becomes part and parcel of who people are. So I love that you said that because one of your businesses is called Wake the F Up NYC.
And why? Yeah.
Who needs
Why?
to
Yeah.
wake the F
And
up
why?
and why? In your opinion, who needs to wake the F up and why?
Oh, wow. I mean, I think everybody does, actually. I think everybody needs to wake up to the destruction of our world, like of our planet. We also need to wake up to our own selves and like take our faces off the phones and look at each other in the eye again and like have real conversations about real things and not fight like on Twitter, which doesn't really help, or whatever site you fight on. And it's, become active in your like town, community, world, whatever it is that, wherever planet you live on, whatever it is, Mars, if you're a Martian, become
Yeah.
active and involved as a human to human rather than from a distance being an armchair politician
I think that's
Yeah.
through a
great.
computer.
That's you're so right. People like live in these like Plato's cave echo chambers sometimes, too much online, too much performative, and it circles back to your point about authenticity. I think that's a great way to live your life generally, but also to dig yourself out of a hole when you find one in it is,
Right.
yeah, I think that's
No
amazing.
one's having real conversations anymore. It's gone. I mean,
Right.
it's gone. I mean, I'm
What?
thinking of doing another run for an office, more national office. And I'm not ready right now, but I was going to do 26, but I've just got to take care of some stuff. I just don't have but the next election, I'd like to, I was looking into running for office and figuring that out, like in a much higher level. So, but I want to prepare myself because I know what to expect now.
Of
After I
course.
ran for mayor, I know the system. I know the board of elections. I mean, at least in New York, I know how it works. I know all the mistakes, and I know the mistakes I made in my campaign. We should have raised money earlier. We could have done more commercials, stuff like that. But you live, you learn. But
I,
it
w-
was sort of fixed against anybody else.
I wish
I
you were
think.
running for mayor now, actually. Like, I'd be happy to vote for you again. Why don't we just dig into this as a natural segue because it is a very
Great.
awesome thing that you've done that I was so happy to vote for you on because I really
Thank
loved your
you.
platform, actually. Like, you were able to thread that needle as a third party and libertarian candidate. Can you tell us, like, what led you into getting into running for mayor? When did you officially announce? And what were the highlights and basically lowlights?
Oh, well, it was quite the journey. So I remember I was on, this is going back to radio again. This is how things kind of intertwine. I did a radio show, a terrestrial radio show with Reverend Bob Levy. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
That
of
was in
course.
2000. It was called Ears Wide Open, and then he called the Bob Levy Show. And we were on two stations, one, and we broadcasted out of his house, which I had to travel 3 hours, but it was fun. We had to do we took over Artie Lange's spot. So Artie Lange, not his podcast, but it was when he did his TV show, his direct TV show would, you could hear the audio through the station. When that show is gone, he gave Bob that terrestrial spot. So Bob asked me, "Can you?" I didn't even know Bob. He's called me, "Will you host it with me?" This is before I was on Artie's show, so I didn't really even know Artie that well. I just knew him from Hello, Goodbye. So we did the show. We had to do 3 hours, 4 days a week, and we would do it all in like 2 days. So we were doing a radio. Bob Levy would wake me up. He'd like I'd stay up upstairs. He'd knock on the door. Time to wake up and do radio. He's like, time to get up and do radio. So we go get coffee, whatever. We'd make coffee. Joe Conti would come, and we do like hours and hours and hours of radio. So we'd think of all these different bits, and I'm like, I want to run for mayor. There's even like a meme that Doug Nilsson did in 2015 saying Stacey Prussman wants to run for mayor of New York, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
a joke, right? It was a joke. That was 2015. So 2018 or 19, I met Larry Sharp, and he was running for governor.
Oh, yeah.
So it must have
Larry
been
Sharp
18.
from the
Yeah,
LP. Yeah.
yeah. And I said, Larry, I want to run for mayor. He's like, oh, give me a call. So a year later, I got in touch with Larry. The pandemic hit, and that's when I
Mm.
started. The minute the pandemic hit, that's when my mayoral campaign started. So I think in April I got the nomination of 2021. Yeah, that's when we
Okay.
started. And then we had to get the signatures. And that once we got in the ballot, that was a huge accomplishment. I don't think you
Yeah.
realize how hard people from other parties were trying to get me off the ballot. Paul, who's an amazing campaign manager, Paul Grindle, shout out. He like fought for all the campaign and some of the other campaigns to get on the ballot. He was like amazing. He was better than a lawyer. He got us all on the ballot. Our 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 petitions were good, and we were on the ballot. And I found out someone wrote something. I was the 8th woman ever in New York history to ever be on the ballot
Oh, wow.
from the
Okay.
time I mean, now probably more people. Maybe no, maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to run third party, but I was the 8th woman to be officially on the New York City mayoral ballot ever.
Incredible.
So not many women have ever been on the ballot, the
Right.
general election ballot, which
How
is
long New
interesting.
York City is. Yeah. I mean, how old New
Right.
York
So
City
that says
is.
something about our society too.
Right. Yeah.
And never
Isn't it?
mind the mayor. So I found that really fascinating. And I take that as a exciting thing. And
Of
I
course.
just decided, and we spent I think the most fun I had was actually writing policy. I had a team of about 8 to 10 people, and we would Zoom. And a lot of people had a lot of free time then, so we would Zoom for hours writing policies. Like we had a guy named Russ who was amazing. He was out of Chicago helping me on my policy team. We had people on the left, people on the right, former Republicans, former Democrats, hardcore libertarians, like just all writing policy together. It was the most unifying point of view. And we all found common ground on my team.
Probably.
Well,
So I loved that. That was my favorite thing.
speaking on that, if I may, um, what issues did you feel were not being pushed in the things that you were running? What you wanted in your campaign? What issues were not being addressed in your opinion?
In my campaign?
No, no, no. In general, that's why
Well,
you ran.
exactly.
You mean that aren't being addressed now in New York?
No, what got you to run? Like, you were
Oh,
developing
oh, oh.
policy
Sorry, I
and
apologize.
no, 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 of course.
Well, I think, the homelessness has gotten so bad.
Yeah.
It's not the home, it's the people that are just mentally ill running down the streets, just out of it, peeing their pants. I mean, there's no reason for it. We live in the richest city in the world, right? Like, there's got to be something we can do. Like the the stores, everything was closed, during the pandemic. That made me really angry. But the big box stores were open. That was terrible. Um, just I think the lockdowns were just so insane. We didn't, didn't make sense. Things could stay open until this time. And you still get, no one understood the disease, and then they did. It was just a lot of information that was not quite, some of it was political, not a lot of it was medical based. I think we needed a lot more medical based information
Right.
thrown at us, not just, political nonsense. Like, after 12, like the disease isn't, you can't get COVID. Like, you'd have restaurants open and they were just trying to control businesses, and some businesses never reopen, right? So that made me angry. And there were ways to be preventative within that as well. Um, I don't know. I just felt a lot of things were not addressed correctly. And some things never, affordable housing was never ever really directed, addressed enough affordable housing. People are now even worse. It's even worse than it ever is. Everything is very, very expensive.
I do agree. I get the genuine feeling that New York City is becoming a two-tier kind of society.
Oh,
And you're right.
absolutely.
The budget is
Yeah.
about, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong. It's about $90 billion a year. So when you say like, yeah, we can afford things like affordable housing, we can afford things like making sure people aren't living on the streets. These are things that should be prioritized and unfortunately aren't. And, when you
Right.
think about other elements of the budget, like that are astronomical in comparison, it lets you, it makes you wonder a lot about
There's,
priorities.
and there's a lot of like money going, people get it and they just end up not using it correctly. Like, I know de Blasio's wife lost money for her mental health initiatives, and we don't know where that money went. And like, that just money gets lost. I don't know how that happens. Like,
Yeah, and
and
whatever
God knows what
Adams is
Eric
doing.
Adams has.
Yeah.
And right, I was gonna say, I don't know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, he's a mess. I mean, we're gonna get him out,
I think the
definitely.
DOJ found him doing some up to no good anyway. Yeah, I think like I come to agree with you in the sense of like there were mistakes made during the time, but that's during a time where you're up to your eyeballs in shit. Like with refrigerator trucks surrounding hospitals and stuff like that. So there were lessons to have been learned that should have been learned quicker. I completely agree on that. I just give a little more grace for the understanding of, oh my God, we're up to our eyeballs in shit right now. It's a complete disaster. But I totally understand where you're coming from in terms of like the priorities of the city. And it's a little upsetting to see such a massive, historic, beautiful city that we all love becoming this two-tier society. And it's definitely, I like that outsiders can, like yourself, like change the discourse a bit, which is what you were able to
Hmm.
do. You had to walk a tightrope of, being more like libertarian oriented, but you still got priorities in there, like in terms of like climate change and in terms of like you were just saying affordable housing, which I think are critical things in New York City. Like Manhattan's going to be coming underwater in our lifetimes if we're not smart. So lower
Right. Well, the red
Manhattan,
line zoning has been, there's red line zoning in New York, which is very
right?
systemically racist, and people don't even realize it. So there's things that have been put into place for decades that need to be undone. And it's just a lot of, New York's going to have to really redo itself. And
Right.
every
Yeah.
couple of years, there's new issues. Like the bikes are an issue. People are almost getting hit by bikes every 2 seconds. And that we have congestion pricing, which I don't know what that's doing, if it's a money grift, or if it's actually helping. I don't know. I mean, I'm not,
Right. It's
you
you're
have to
not
pay
running for
money to.
mayor. You're not running for mayor right now. It's not your job to know that. Yeah, no, of course, of course. No, I think like there's challenges, there's definitely challenges to be made, and same old thinking ain't gonna do it. Like to fix the
But no
problems.
one likes change. People actually don't. They say they want every politician. We're going to make change, and it's the same old crap. Like we've seen very little change. If you look at every election from here until since I've been, I mean, other than technology, we don't really change anything. Like nothing's changing for the better. Like nothing really has changed, you know. And then we end up
Very,
going backwards in other ways, So
yeah,
it's weird.
extremely hard to notice even if there are, smaller benefits, it's being outwashed for sure. And I mean, it's actually to me, I just think like you're right about nobody wants change because it's so interesting. Like I kind of am on the side of congestion pricing in the sense that like when a lot of cars come into New York City, that throw a little extra towards that. You know, I worked in a company that we staffed events in the city all the time. So that cost would come on me, you know, to pay the extra price. But I also was driving big ass 20-foot trucks that were probably ripping up the roads and blowing smog in people's windows. So I
Right.
understand there has to strike a balance there.
There has to be a balance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
that
everyone
has
has
to,
a car.
and
Every
not everyone.
suburban person has a car, a gigantic SUV, and they bring it into the
Yeah.
city and let's go out to the, go to Macy's or whatever the hell they do.
The change, you made a very good point about
Yeah.
everybody wants change, but nobody likes change. One thing I thought was a good idea was the restaurants and bars having sidewalk service, and
I
I
love
thought
that.
and
Yeah.
I thought it was a great idea, but it started leading to issues with rats because of garbage collection. So the
Yes.
solution there, which I think is great, was using more of a European garbage disposal model, which we have in Barcelona, several Europeans do. It does take up more space and it's a bitch for parking, but my thought is I would rather less parking and less rats, you know, like generally speaking, but everybody's complaining about it now. And I'm like, well, do you want a billion rats or do you want more
No, we have
slightly
to.
better
I mean, there's
parking?
got to be a way to do it, right?
Right,
Like,
right. Yeah. So
I
I
mean,
just,
New
yeah.
York isn't a driving city. It just isn't.
No,
I
I don't
mean,
think
to that
so.
deliveries and moving and that kind of stuff, I get it, but it's not a city. You don't go cruising around. Brooklyn, Queens, maybe, but not like Manhattan. Manhattan is not a driving city. My
Yeah.
area, yeah, you have to drive, but you don't have to. I don't even drive. I don't even have a license, so there you go.
Oh, yeah. Wow, really? Nice. I didn't get one until I was 25. So I get
I've tried.
New
Trust
York
me.
City
Okay.
kid. New York. So
Okay.
you're
Okay.
a
Well,
bit of an,
you can't tell you're 18.
sorry. Yeah, you can't tell you're 18. Yeah. So you're a bit of an NYC staple anyway, from off-Broadway plays and starring in indie movies all over the city. But you've been on a significant number of New York City shows. Chief of all, one of my favorites, and Lucas is Howard Stern.
Oh,
How many times?
yes, Howard.
How many times have you been over on Howard Stern? You've done Sirius XM follow-up programs, the Opie and Anthony universe, which I'm a straight white guy, so I definitely like shock jocks. You know what I'm saying? I grew up, that was my time. I listened to Howard, I listened to O&A. I was a big fan of all of those comics that they brought on. And some of the biggest comics in the world come from that. You know, Bill Burr, Joe Rogan, these guys are massive now, and they got a lot of their start from shows like this. And I'm just
Oh, absolutely,
curious
yeah.
how you found yourself into just circulating in these different radio shows. You had said earlier stand up and radio kind of like have a cousins kind of relationship, and it's like, yeah, can you tell us more about your
Sure.
experiences
Well,
on
it
these
had
shows?
nothing to do with stand up. I was actually in Grandma Sylvia's funeral, which we were how or
Right.
Steve Grillo, who's one of my dearest friends, who actually called me this morning. I have to call him back. He was in the post. He has a book, Grillo Parts. Go get it. Shout out to Steve.
Nice.
He and I were very close friends, and he was on Howard. And through meeting Benji, who was one of my good friends, I met him back before he was on Howard. For some reason, I don't know why. I think through mutual friends. He wasn't even on Howard as an intern at that point. And basically, Benji needed people to fill in for different bits, and I did it like 2 or 3 times. So yeah.
Nice.
And I already knew a lot of the people. I knew everybody from like when we did Grandma Sylvia, I'd go to parties with Grillo, and I knew Ganji, and I knew Doug, all those guys, Goodstein, and Mike Ganji, and Stuttering John. This is like in the '90s, before
Wow.
you know where we are now. And
Becoming an icon, you know, on this
well,
path.
Howard was an icon,
Yeah.
at that point. But I had a great time on the
Definitely.
show. I loved it. So
And you've
I
made
mean,
the
I
rounds.
just filled in for like I did different acting bits, and I was myself once, and they let me stay in the studio the whole time, and I had a great time with Nicole Bass, and that was fun.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Like I feel like you have starring on SNL and being a guest on Howard Stern as these quintessential New York City media things. You know what I'm
Well, I didn't
saying?
star on
Like,
SNL. I just had little appearances over like years ago. But
no,
yeah.
no, I just mean that like they're big things to do, like for people that are actually involved in there. And then how did you wind up on, is that through, well, he wasn't on Sirius back then, but you've done a number of Sirius XM shows as well,
Oh
appearances.
yeah, just once you get into the
Mhm.
group, you kind of just end up, doing like I did Race Wars, and then you do like Bennington show, and
Ron
you just end up doing
Bennington.
everybody's show, you know, and like I love all those guys and like, you know, just through the scene, right? You end up just and then Chips Norton I've known for years since I started. He used to do my show.
One of my favorites.
He used to do my comedy shows I used to produce. So like you just know everybody for like 25 years already, you know. So you kind of just do each other's shows and then, you know, that's you know, then you meet different people. I used to love going to the studio in Sirius because you come in and like your name says, welcome Stacey Prussman, and you see well, and you know, they have all these different stations. It's not just comedy, it's like music. So you can see these famous musicians walking by and authors and actors and politicians, and it's just like crazy. So it was really a fun time because like, you know, all these different shows have different people coming through.
Do you have
It's
one
a
that was
big
your?
building.
Do you have one specific instance that was your favorite, or one of your favorites?
I just love going there. I mean, I don't remember any specific. I
Oh, sure.
remember going in and seeing like I think Eminem was there. It was like people just walking through and like just they had books they were peddling or whatever it was.
I feel like if there was a sandwich shop where you get like 10 clicks for a free sandwich, you would be that for every New York City Shock Shock show. So like Ron and Fez, Ron Bennington, you know, Chipperson, O&A, Howard Stern, like you've done the rounds. And
I never did O&A, but I did Kumia, you know, a lot of
Kumia. But
times.
yeah, right. So
Yeah, I did
you're
a compound. I used to be like there every week or two, you know, every two, you know, back when it first started, I was there all the time.
Stacey's amazing because she's done everything left, right, and indifferent. So like she's done NBC, she's done Fox News, she's
I
done
did Fox with Tim
Kumia.
Dillon, actually. He was on Red Eye with me. That was really fun. This is before he hit big. It was me, it was him, Jessica Tarlov, me, and it was Tom Shalhoub when he was hosting Red Eye, and that was really fun. I did that. I did that once, and that was really fun. I did the Red Eye on Fox.
And you've done Kumia and you've done John Fugelsang.
Yes.
So
Love
like
John Fugel. Love me some John Fugelsang. Yes.
I love
Love
that
me some
dude.
Kumia. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't have, what's the thing? Like, I don't really have preferences of like, I'll do left, right, center. I'll do, I've done I did a Trump podcast with Pat Dixon and what's his face? And, you know, when he did his Trump podcast, I've done a lot of podcasts, you know.
You've also worked with one of my favorite comedians of all time, the star of Artie Lange's Beer League, Artie Lange. Can you tell us a little bit about
Oh,
working with him? Because I just love him so much.
Artie. Um, I could tell you that. So I used to be the Thursday guest every Thursday. Him, me, Mike Bichetti. Sometimes Gino was there every day. We'd go to Artie's house, and it would take a long time to start. um, we started, and I would laugh so hard, like my stomach, my muscles, and my abdomen would be killing me. It was like I did a thousand sit. It was like it was. I laughed. I don't think I ever laughed that hard doing Artie's show. He is hysterical, and he was quick and just genius. It
One of
was
the
like
goats.
working with a genius.
Yeah, one of the goats. My friends and I were obsessed with Artie Lange's Beer League for 10 full years. Still are.
Oh,
Occasionally I'll get a quote text, and it's very Jersey, quintessentially Jersey. Were you meeting up with him in Hoboken?
I went to his house in Hoboken. Yes, I don't know
Oh,
if I get the
nice.
address, but
Right. No, 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 no,
yeah,
no, no. We had a recording studio in Hoboken. That's why
yeah.
we go to
And he had his.
Fiore's.
We go to his house. Um, Dan Filato, the producer, would give us coffee and treats, and then
Amazing.
we'd, we'd wait for Artie. Sometimes he was there. Sometimes he was like late. He was doing auditions, whatever, and then we would, you know, just record. And sometimes he'd make us stay there for hours. Like it was just like hours and hours of recording.
Yeah, everybody has their process, right? So I guess the final thing I would love you to explain better for us is Wake the F Up NY. It's sort of a part production company, part merchandise, part political movement. Dig into
Well,
it for us a bit.
I don't want to say it was based on my campaign because I love the slogan so much and I love the logo. And my partner Abe Jack and he designed. I conceptualized the logo and he designed it. Like I'm like I wanted this way, and he's an amazing designer. So if you need a designer, he's extremely good. Um, and we both have a business together, and it's basically a New York business. It's actually gonna go more coffee, tea, because and caffeine drinks and
Okay.
that kind of thing, and then swag. So we're kind of going into that space. but we want it to be the new I Love New York.
It's better. It's definitely
Right,
better.
we want to take over I Love New York and be like, wake the F up NY.
I
Because we
love
need
that.
nothing, everything's closed. It's not 24 hours like it used to be. Like you
Right.
sometimes you can't find a deli bodega open 24 hours, in certain areas. Like areas are closed and they're dark and they're sad, and in New York, that's not New York. New York needs to have 24-hour diners, places to go all night. It just needs to be New York again. It became like this sleepy city in a way after the pandemic. So
Priority.
that was my whole thing. Wake the F up NY. Like let's get it going. Let's go back. Let's go forward, not back. Let's go forward and start opening things up, stores. Let's support the mom and pop shops. Let's be different. Like, let's not be a mall. Like, let's make sure that when you come to New York, it's not like you're in like you're in the same suburban town. I mean, we have all these suburban stores now there.
And
Everything's a chain
banks,
store.
a lot of banks, a lot of
Banks.
CVS. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
And we don't
It's
even have enough. And the thing is, we don't even have enough pharmacies in like the city. It's they're that you have to like go online or go. These big pharmacies are taking over for the small pharmacies.
and you have neighborhoods, whole boroughs. Like I'm from the Bronx, and there was a considerable amount of time where we didn't even have a bookstore. Like, I
They're closing
mean,
bookstores. Yeah, they're doing that.
yeah,
Like Forest Hills, where I used to live, they had this Barnes and Noble, which was like I guess it was like the center of the city, made the town cool. They closed it and put a Target, like a crappy Target, not even a good Target, like one of those little ones that have to sell ugly clothes, like not
sure.
even like things you need for your house. It was just crap. So, they're
Yeah.
doing that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, New
Well,
York
they're going
needs
to
to like
shutter that Target soon.
they
Oh
are.
yeah.
Well, I mean, they've lost how many billions or hundreds of millions?
That's the worst. And that's not even a good Target. It doesn't even have anything. Like, not that any Target is good, but it doesn't even have anything that any other store wouldn't have. But like that's what we need. We need to, get character back in our neighborhoods and not make everything look a mall in like suburbia. Like that's not New York City.
Man,
Couldn't
you're
agree
you're
more.
speaking to a man who's never bought from Amazon,
Wow, I've
and
never met anybody that never
Wow, good for you, man.
that's amazing. So I mean, I
hey,
think that's a part of my movement, and go to Wake the F Up NY, buy a shirt or we're gonna have we're gonna have coffee. We have coffee on there right now, but that's not the blend that I'm gonna be selling. I want to sell it to stores and teas as well. So we have Brooklyn breakfast blend coming out. So we're working. It's taking a long time to get it going because we want to find the right teas and the right coffees and
Of
the
course.
right merch. But I was selling at souvenir stores. I was starting to sell. I sold to one, but I want to actually sort of really we're really get it going online so everyone
Okay.
could have one.
Well, you need a taste tester. My wife and I will be there in July, so you can let us
Oh,
know.
wonderful. Cool.
So we like to end on a positive note. Why don't you tell
Sure.
us a couple of things you love about the city that you've been born
Oh,
and raised in?
sure. I love the boroughs. I mean, Manhattan's cool. I love going to Queens. I went to the Queens night market with the food. It was amazing. Everything was like $6 and you can eat like a pig and have tastes of all over the world for $6. Um, I go to Jackson Heights for Indian food at Angel. I love Parkside in Corona. I love going to the park and walking in Brighton Beach is near where I live, and I go there all the time and walk on the boardwalk. I love the beach. I mean, I have a whole entire beach like 10 minutes from where I live.
Oh,
Coney Island in off season is amazing. I love it. There's so many things about the people, the spirit of the people that will never go away.
we create the
is
best
So
hustlers. New York City creates the best hustlers for
you have to be a
sure.
hustler. You can't live in the city without hustling. Like
Yeah.
if you're a performer, and unless you're making millions, it's very hard to live in the city if you're not making like $100,000 a year. I mean,
Right.
I'm not kidding. And as a comic, very few comics, make that much money. Like even well-known ones, it's hard to unless you're like doing major corporate gigs or doing cruise ships or doing you're doing like $5,000 weekends or 10,000. It's hard to make that.
Right. So you have to innovate side hustles, multiple things. I completely
Right,
agree.
writing books, doing acting, like, lucky I do acting and I have that outlet. I also teach theater in schools. around the city
really?
as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I teach theater and I do some teaching. Yeah,
We should have mentioned
and
that. We
other
should have mentioned
things.
that in the intro.
No, you don't do-
No, but
but
listen, I just want to say thank you so much. This is so much fun to learn about
Uh,
your impact and your
thank you for
career.
having me. This was really fun. I can't wait to see it, and it was great to see you, Rob, and nice to meet you, Luca. And I'm
so
here.
nice to meet
I
you.
so nice to meet you, and this has been great. I
And
hope that you
tell us where people, audience can find you.
just go to my
Please.
website, www.staceyprussman.com, STACEYPRUSSMAN.com. There's links to everything I do, my social media. There's links to um my Wake the F Up NY there. You can find my company. I'm gonna start my own podcast in the next 2 weeks. So
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I'm
Oh,
just trying to get that together. I have a guest lined up in the next that I'm writing questions for. I didn't forget her, but someone I'm a big fan of. I contacted, and she's a musician, and I'm going to have her on the show. So yeah, I'm going to have it's going to be the Pressman Universe. It's called,
Great.
and all the things that I love from my music, stuff to the people that are interesting to me. So it's going to be this like diverse group of people that I interview and uh
Nice.
get to connect with them and find out what makes them tick. So I'm really interested and excited about that.
Great teaser. Perfect teaser. Well, thank you very much, and we can't wait to talk to you
peace.
again.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Wake the F up, New York.